everybody, Jefferson Webster here. This video is going to be a little bit different than some of the ones I've done in the past. And well, I've been working from home since March 2020, and part of my daily routine would be to play a record on my grandparents' RCA Victor cabinet. I love this cabinet, and unfortunately back in fall 2020, it finally quit on me. In attempts to keep this old cabinet going, I reached out to a repair person from Tulsa, Oklahoma. He replied indicating that the old record player inside was harsh on newer records and that I'd be better off gutting the old cabinet and using it as a furniture piece. Heeding his advice, I decided to do an overhaul in the cabinet, so this video is just a quick breakdown of that process. Please note, I'm not a professional restoration person. I have little to no experience doing anything like this, so I'll defer you to other videos to get in the weeds there. Also, I did this on the absolute cheap. The only tools I used for this project were a jigsaw, power drill, sandpaper, screwdrivers, and brushes. I wanted to merely lay out the steps I took for those who may be in a similar situation and intimidated by a project like this. First, let's talk about the history associated with this cabinet. It was first purchased in 1970 by my grandparents for $275, which equates to roughly $1,800 today. Now you're probably thinking, wow, your family must be insanely affluent. Not really. You have to keep in mind that these cabinet record players were a focal point of homes back in the day. In the absence of TV broadcasting an event, then the radio was a big part of the news, sports, and information that a household received. Similarly, records were the innovation of the time, following 8-tracks. When I opened up the cabinet, I realized that I would have to remove the speakers, the radio, and the record player. This stuff was very heavy. They don't make them like this anymore. Once everything was removed from the inside of the cabinet, I decided to measure all the real estate for the various portions of the cabinet. I decided to track down some old Bose 14-inch speakers, a Yamaha floor subwoofer, a Bluetooth receiver, and a new record player. I measured everything within the cabinet to make sure it would fit. The final step was to connect everything and make sure it worked. Upon measurement, I discovered that the new record player and receiver would end up being quite snug in the center of the console, so I had to completely rip out that entire area. I'd have to rebuild that section, which to be candid was actually the most difficult part of the project. Once the old mechanics were pulled out, it was time to sand the outside. I used some wood putty to patch up a few scuffs and cracks on the cabinet. Next, I used pre-stain on the entire exterior of the cabinet. 20 minutes later, I followed that up with a nice dark wood stain. I ended up using 3 coats just to get consistency across the entire cabinet. Once I had the desired look on the exterior, I used 2 coats of polyurethane to lock everything in and protect the cabinet, waiting 24 hours between coats for drying. Next, I installed the Bose speakers, anchoring them to the inside of the console and connecting the speaker wire. I ended up spray painting the speaker liners a light gold, hoping that they would pop more. It ended up looking okay though. As for the center of the console, I basically built a square box from some cheap plywood at Lowe's to hold the receiver and record player in the center. I drilled a hole in the base for the cords, felted all the boards with some cheap black felt, and hooked everything up. Is it perfect? No, but it's functional. Here's the final product. Overall, the project took me roughly 3 to 4 weeks to complete, but if you had nothing else going on and some better tools, I think you could easily knock this out in a week. In closing, if you have an item like this that's been passed down from your family, save it. I hope to keep this in my family for many more years. Perhaps my grandkids can put some hologram TVs or something in it 40 years from now. Well, that's it for now. Stay safe, wear a mask, and save a life. See you guys.